Hey guys, I just watched my other writing video just to refresh myself on what it was I spoke about, and I talked about wanting to delve deep about formatting, and I will touch on that, but I think this is going to be more a video about the diversity of being a writer and what it can mean for you. And I just want to touch on the different types of writers, and maybe one of those types will be the type you want to be. So today, I digress just a second, I have, my little tube dress on and it's my hair fresh and day. I don't have any metal on. I'm going to be getting an MRI on my knee. As I told my friend Jackie, I was like, you know what? I just need to know. And I'm hoping something shows up that makes sense as to why my knee has not actually ever resolved. I think when I did this aerobics stuff here in Mexico a couple of years ago, I kind of hurt my knee and my Achilles tendon and everything at the same time, and it's just never really resolved. So I think I did something. But anyway, we'll know later. And I can't wait for that to be kind of behind me. So knowledge is power, and I can get it done down here in Mexico for a real inexpensive cost. I think it's going to be about $180, which is, it's still money. But it's not what it would be in the States if I had to pay out of pocket. And since I'm well under 65, there's no way for me to get Medicare, and we can't afford insurance. I mean, it's like $3,000 a month or something like that. Anyhow, catastrophic too. So big digression. I never digress. Formatting. As I mentioned before in my last video, in order for you to write a book and get it published in an electronic file, you have to format it. And that's what I'm doing on Fiverr right now. 13 years ago, I followed a guy named Bryce Beatty on YouTube. He was the only guy that was out there at the time, and he was saying, I know how to format using a free system called OpenOffice. I hopped on OpenOffice, I downloaded their program, and I hand-coded the template according to Bryce Beatty's instructions. And then further, I had to learn what it meant to format. And so I decided what size of font I wanted and what type, and how I wanted to have my headings centered and everything. Everything has to be identified in the format for your story so that later you can make live links with a table of contents. Okay, so each thing that you want to show up in your table of contents must be identified within the program so it can catalog it and make it correct. And there's things to use. There's choices to be made, like if you have a font that goes past size 14, it can get wonky. If you use tab, it makes it wonky. And what does wonky mean? Wonky means instead of your chapter showing up on the top where it needs to, it's going to show up in the middle of the page. I can always tell when someone's a novice formatter because it doesn't look like a book. And some of my books are still not formatted in a real, the really slick, beautiful way that you can do now, but they're still legible. The chapter's at the top, it's centered, it has the number. I can enter in, like a drop cap if I want to. I mean, I have the skill set to do all of that. And I did do all of that. And then about 3 years ago, I bought a software suite that I saw other authors using and really liked the presentation in that. And I took my formatted template and I put it into that. And what it did basically was it allowed my book to look as though it was a print book, a paperback, but it was actually an e-copy. All the drop caps were in there. I could insert chapter art. I had 20 different choices on font suites, scene breaks, and all these cool things. So that's what I'm doing for formatting now. Is it important for me to have the skill set that I gained 13 years ago in order to format from scratch? Yes, it is important, because what I'm finding is that my editor has Doc or DocX capability, and if I take that beautiful software and I convert it into a DocX after it's finished, it goes wonky. And she gets this format where it doesn't make any sense to her and it's all wonky. So I've gone back to using my source file, my doc, and I've been writing directly into that. And then I give it to my editor, and then when she gives it back to me, then I convert it to DocX, then I insert it in my suite, my software suite. Oh yeah, it's involved. It's involved, but to give you an idea of why it's so important that you learn how to do your own formatting, unless you're just rolling in cash. If you have a lot of discretionary income, you don't even bother watching this. But if you're somebody that wants to be a one-woman or one-man show, and you are very precise and deliberate, and you want to see all the stuff done the way you want it to present, and you're making sure there's a quality control measure that's much higher with yourself than it would be from anybody you hired out, this is the way to go. And the source file thing is critical, because if the source file is crummy, when you go to put it in your software suite, that makes it look like a print book with way less work and way more choices and all these little plugins. I mean, it's just a fantastic thing. If you go to do that and your source file's crap, there's a lot of work then in the software. And there's a lot of comparing back and forth with the source file and the software. And the reason I know that is because I have to do that. My source file is perfect, and my software is perfect, and it's meant to accept my source file, and they work in collaboration in tandem. The problem is that now this is wonderful for me, but I'm going to give you the idea of how much you're saving by learning your own formatting. And let me tell you, I'm not a technical girl. I learned formatting from absolute desire to write books. I wanted to get them up there. We were a one-income family, which I touched on. I wanted to save money. At that time, a source format was $150. I know, because I got A Terrible Love, a New York Times best-selling book. I got it formatted professionally because I wanted a certain look, and so I paid out for that one because I felt the book was going to do well, and it did. It just was a gut instinct thing I had. And so I paid this German guy, to format it, and he did a gorgeous job. For the time, it was just super pro. And I think it helped. I think it helped the book look more professional. And I paid to have the cover done by Fat Puppy. I paid out on that book a little bit because I believed in the story, and it did really well, and I'm glad I did. But it was $150 then. And I'm charging between $350 and $500 a format now, depending on what people want. If they just want an EPUB and a print, I can use my software with some minimal formatting pain, okay? But if they want a source file and they want the EPUB for upload, and then they want the print as well, then we're looking at $500 for my skill set. You have to pay a lot. So if you're coming to someone like myself, I won't touch a format for under 300. I won't. It's got to be a really short book, like 12,000 words or something. I had a return customer that just came in, and he had a budget of $150, and he had a 12,000 word work, and I didn't have to do the source file, and $150 for a 12,000 word work is like, it's 60 pages or something. And I did extra things for him. I inserted some imagery and some different things to customize it more, because I just go that extra mile for my clients, so that when they get their book back, there's some really pleasant surprises in there for them. They really love that. I isolated some images for him, and I put them in his publisher area and everything. So he should be very pleased with that, I would think. That's how much it costs, $300 to $500. And that gets you, on the $500 side, it gets you a source file, which is a file that is editable. You can go back in there and make updates, and it won't mess it up, okay? And then it gets you the real pretty electronic file, which matches your print exactly as well. So by the time, if you spend $500 with me and you have an 80 to 100,000 word work, you will get a source file, you will get a print for paperback, PDF, and then you will get EPUB, which is industry standard right now. I mean, people, are that don't know much are coming to me and saying, "What about Mobi? What about RFT?" And I'm like, "What? No." Kindle, Amazon did away with Mobi files like 2.5, 3 years ago. It's EPUB. All my stuff's been converted to EPUB. That's industry standard. They all use it. It doesn't have any wonkiness, doesn't present weird. It's perfect. So EPUBs. So that'll be there. On the low end, if your book's like 40, 50,000 words and you don't need a source file, it'd be 300 approximately. I mean, just broad swath, rough stuff. So what's interesting to me is that 13 years ago, someone had told me there was going to be a place named Fiverr that came online, and you could re-monetize your skill set in that way. I would have been like, what? No. But yes, back in 2010 and 2011, when I was learning how to format my book to get it uploaded to Amazon and everywhere else that was selling books, I was thinking I've got to do this thing so I can write a book, and now I'll be writing my books right into this coded template, which I did. I never thought that later to just make extra money and re-monetize my skill set, I would be on Fiverr doing that. So about half of my work on Fiverr is formatting, and the other half of my work is ghostwriting. And so that's another thing I want to talk about, is that I have more work than I can perform on Fiverr right now. My passive income, which is the books I've already written, need a lot of babysitting. I just spent the last 2 months of my life recovering my entire catalog. And I used, since my last, episode 1, since my last writing video, I have now gained an AI. I went and bought an annual package for AI image generation. And that was, it took me a half a day to learn how to do that properly. And I'm still, tweaking and fine tuning and everything, but it's been a game changer, you guys. And it's putting book cover artists out of business. And I just want to touch on how sad that is in a way. But on the other side of the coin, as a writer, I needed to have a good book cover to wrap my polished story, my original story in, and they had priced me right out. I could no longer afford the $500 to $1,500 a cover for the really great covers that readers are loving right now. I couldn't afford to do it, not at the pace that I write. I certainly couldn't afford to recover all my already written works in that way. It just wasn't affordable, even if I was making hand over fist money. And I'm making okay living. It's not anything great, but it's decent, getting by for sure. But I didn't have enough discretionary income to recover my whole catalog. That wasn't cost effective, but I wanted to. And so I was going back through my catalog, and like I touched on the last video, I was recovering to the skill set I had and making everything look better. And it did look better, but it didn't look good enough to compete with some of those really top-notch book covers. And I knew that, but I was doing what I could do, and I had a certain amount of time, and I still want to be, writing and stuff too. I want to produce between 2 and 3 books a year. That's my goal. And having all those goals made Fiverr sort of a part-time job. And I get so many queries now. I have to book out a month or 2 in advance now, because I'm only willing to take so many gigs per week. A gig is a task that someone says, I want you to format my book, for example, for this much money. You say yes, and you're in a contract for a certain amount of time until that task is completed. It's called a gig. And when that gig is completed, then they review it, and then you get paid. And that's how it goes. And I did have some kind of saucy experiences in the beginning when I kind of undersold my skill set, and so that attracted a lower caliber of people. And I was just trying to be affordable and get gigs in and get reviews and stuff like that. And it wasn't working, so I went ahead and raised my prices to be commensurate with my accolade and skill set and my credentials. And now I get a higher level of clients, and they don't try to negotiate prices with me. They're just like, yeah, you can command this. And that's been much better for me. And so I just take like two or 3 gigs a week, so it leaves me some time to write and take care of this big backlist I have of books. And that's what I need to do. And that's what I need to focus on. But circling back around, I just want to mention, when you learn these highly technical skill sets, marketing, graphic design, formatting, and then of course writing, when those things happen and you learn those things, it could be an investment in your future to be able to re-monetize in another way. Right? And Clapper, which is an alternative for TikTok, I have almost 31,000 followers there now. It prepared me to be in front of the camera as I am now. This is a lengthier video, of course, but it was practice for that. You just don't know what it is that you're doing now that will help you later. So learning how to format is a skill that I'm doing a format job at least once a week, and I've gotten to be good enough, proficient enough at it that it's very lucrative for me to do the formats, and it keeps my skill set sharp too. It's 2 things together. Now Fiverr, and I just want to put in another plug for Fiverr. I like Fiverr, but Fiverr does take 20% of whatever you make from your gigs for the privilege of showcasing, you having your tile up on their site. They're an intermediary, okay? And I like Fiverr because it's very organized and everything. And right now I'm working on either being a pro seller or top rated. I've been qualified since November, but they have a list where they go through everybody by hand to decide if you are okay. But I have a perfect 5-star review rating. I have over 100 reviews. I've got 7 gigs going, and I have other gigs. I'm just going to briefly touch on what I have, and then you'll know kind of what my skill set is. I have a revision in my narrative voice, which is basically me having a client submit their story, their chapter, and I add what I'm calling literary polish. Literary polish, which is a term I got from one of my clients. I thought it was genius, and I just adopted it instantly and said, oh, I love that. It's exactly what I'm doing. There's that. Then there's me just from scratch ghostwriting. Okay, there's that. Then I generate AI images, and I assemble and build the image with font, author title, spine, synopsis, author bio. I can also do that. Those are all different packages. If you just want an image that's pretty, I can do that. Because now I'm an AI artist. Because it actually built on the skill set I already had as a graphic artist and made everything I could do better. So you can just get images from me, or you can get images and then I build the e-copy and then I build the print copy, or I do all of it. So there's that. And then there's a consult. You can get a 1-hour Zoom meeting with me, and I will recap the 1 hour with a 2,000-word doc that talks about all the things we discussed during our call, our Zoom, and it's really beneficial. And I get one of those like every couple months, every 6 weeks or something. Somebody says, I just want to talk to you and discuss these things, and then I'll be like, okay. So I have the consult, formatting, of course. And the formatting has, different tiers as well. But because I'm not a pro seller, but a premium seller, I now have everything under request to order. So if somebody is serious about wanting to order from me, they just have a request to order because they say, I have this thing. And that way, nobody can just grab one of my gigs and say, I want you to do this in this amount of time. Because I have to schedule these, now. Then I offer this thing called KDP Upload, and that's something else I want to touch on. So you already have an idea of the formatting. That I downloaded OpenOffice. I created my own template so that I could write directly into my template. I identified each part of my story according to how I wanted it to present in the table of contents. I'm careful with how I space my words, or they get wonky. So the source file is very, very precise. It's very precise, and that's why people are coming to me. They'd rather spend $300 to $500 and have me do it and have a perfect source file that can be converted to EPUB or whatever they want. They'd rather have that than learn it. I'm saying this is for the person that wants to save money and they want a high degree of quality control, and they want it. They're a control freak, or they're a quality control freak, or they just want their own source and they want to build it and they want to have that advantage. Okay? I understand that. The second, that was, I think, the last gig I said was the KDP Upload. That's another thing. I just recently had a client that was pretty unhappy with me. He was super happy with his format. He was super happy with his cover. I went above and beyond in every way. I gave him things in his format that he didn't expect for me to do. And I always say in my gigs, when I turn them in for delivery, I always say, to add value to this gig, I did the following, and then I list all the things I did that weren't part of our gig. And it always makes the client happy to know that they got those extra things as part of what I do, because I write and I format and I market. When someone hires me to do a gig on Fiverr for formatting, I apply everything I know to their format. Why not give them that advantage? They've hired me to do a job, and I want the most value I can give my client per sourcing. So that's what I do. You know, I add a call to action. I mean, sometimes I get a format, guys, and they don't even say the end at the end of the story. That happens like half the time. So I put in the end in bold, centered, and then I put a call to action for them to review that book, and then I live link it, you know, and then if they have other books, I grab the graphics and put them in there, and I live link those. And yeah, I give a lot of value for my format. I don't leave it at just a format. I repair things when I see it. My software says, hey, that's not spelled right. And then I reach out to the client and say, hey, I found some stuff. Can I repair it? And they always say, yeah, even though it's not an editorial. So if I spend another 10 or 15 minutes on the project and it's repaired with what my software caught, I'm going to fix it if they allow me to fix it. So that's it. Now, KDP with this guy that was super happy with the format. He was super happy with the cover. And then he wanted me to upload it to KDP because I offer that as a gig. And then he was mad about the price. And he was a professional. I won't tell you what kind or where he lived. He's a guy and he makes about $400 an hour. Okay? And that's okay. You can spend your money as you want to. But he was mad because I was going to charge him $300 for a KDP upload. And that's from Point of Ignorance, okay? Because when you upload to KDP, you know, like he told me, he came back and he was like, it's super easy. Get me done in like 15 minutes. I said, yes, I can. Yes, I can. That's true. And then he wanted to come back and have me walk him through all the steps. And I'm like, no, this was the gig I offered you. And this is what I was willing to do. Like I took the time to customize a gig and do a custom offer, and I put it forward for his consideration. And much of it was research, keyword research. I was going to leverage his subtitle. I was going to make it convertible with search engine optimized keywords, SEO. I was going to get a bunch of keywords that pertain to only his type of novel, and I was going to insert them in the keyword bank inside the first page. I was going to then convert and SEO his synopsis as well. I was going to add trope keywords so that when people saw his synopsis, they also saw the tropes at the bottom, which is just things like enemies to lovers, dark atmosphere, dark fiction, you know, whatever pertained to his title. And then I was going to give him advice on KU, whether he should be in there. I was going to then establish his price point. I was going to upload his print and his e-copy, and I was going to make sure they're sized. I would have checked each page to make sure each thing was perfect. If there was any anomalies, I'm the formatter, so I could have come back and corrected that. I was going to grab his ISBN and insert it into his book. There was a lot that was going to go into that. And then I have the responsibility to go into someone's sensitive KDP account and work in an area where, you know, their banking information's there and all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm not going to do that for some cheap price and have somebody come back later and blame me for something. And I did it for $100. And it took me like 2.5 or 3 hours of research and implementation and all that stuff. It's not, the value's not there for me. So I was like, okay. And then he goes, it took me 15 minutes, already published. It's just fine. That was a ridiculous price. You were just concerned about getting more money. And I was like, well, of course I do want to make a living. Of course I'm going to get money for these things. I said, did you review what it was that you were going to get for that money? And he just wouldn't, you know, he goes up. And then he threatened to take away one of my reviews. And I was like, so because you don't like my pricing on the KDP upload, somehow I now didn't do a good job on your cover and your formatting? And he tipped me too for all that. So I was like, you're not very reasonable, I thought to myself. But you get a client like that once in a while who just is ignorant of the processes, and they come in and they get really mad about stuff. And no matter how reasonable you are, they're not reasonable. And so what was interesting was that I have done kind of a spot check on Kindle to see if that novel is published, and it's not. So I don't actually think it was as easy as he thought it was going to be. And when he was trying to upload the print copy, he was really mad at me. He was like, you could have told me that it was a 5x8 instead of a 6x9. And I screenshotted where I did, and then I uploaded that into our message thread. I said, I did tell you that. I wasn't trying to keep anything secret for the purposes of maybe getting the job or more money or whatever. I was very transparent in everything I did, and you liked that about me, and you liked me going above and beyond. And now suddenly you don't like me because you're spinning your wheels and getting ticked off about a process you don't understand, but you didn't want to pay me, so now you're just being stubborn. So the KDP upload is more than just putting in your title and hitting the adult content and then uploading the file and the cover and selecting the price point. If you want your novel to be surfaced to the readers of your choice, using SEO and conversion and AIDA principles, for instance, in your synopsis, with attention and call to action and all those things that you need in a synopsis, then you won't give your book the best chance to be surfaced, to be seen. And since I started implementing SEO and conversion and AIDA and things like that in my synopsis, subtitle, and keywords, respectively, it's made a humongous difference in my downloads. I treat my first in series as lost leaders. I have, I think, 11 series offhand. I could have more, maybe it's 12, I don't know. Anyway, I always make sure the first book is free in my series so that people can try my work for free, and if they like it, then they will buy the next book, and I don't worry about it. And since I started doing implementing this vehicle of algorithm manipulation, it's not nefarious in any way. It's meant to be a marketing tool, and I'm using those. I've seen a huge increase in downloads. And then I added the AI generated images, which make my book covers look like I paid $1,000 a book cover. They really look beautiful now. And what's nice about those is when you generate images using AI, I'm able to put in keywords that manufacture the vision I have for my work, because I'm the author and I know what the story is. So for example, with Blood Singers, it's about werewolves and vampires and angelic blood and fae, fairies and all kinds of stuff. And I know it's a gritty kind of a dark story, a dark series, which all my stuff is. And so I'm able to put in keywords, like maybe 30 keywords, and I get these images that, though they're not necessarily perfect, you'll get a group of 4, and then one might be kind of close to what you were thinking. And then you hit that one, and then that one comes up with another 4 that are closer to that one. And then you start fine-tuning it until you've got an image that works, and then you've got a couple images you really like, and then you blend them, and then suddenly you've got your book cover. It's not that fast, but it's kind of like that. And then I like to look very brand. So a lot of my book covers have a similar sort of feel to them, coloration, vibe, whatever. Some of them are specific to the book, like I have Angelic Blood has a guy that's turning into an angel, and then Redemptive Blood has a guy with horns on his head, because we're talking about demons there. So I was able to customize a few of those without going way too far away with the book covers, and they're doing tremendously well. So I highly recommend leveraging AI. I know there's a lot of pushback with AI, and I found it to be a very good tool for saving me time and definitely money. I don't do it in my writing because it just doesn't make sense. Maybe I'll have a little passage, like a paragraph out of a whole book where I'm describing something like runes or sorcery or something that I never write about, and I want it to sound really legit, then I might do one paragraph or something. But that's only been in my ghostwriting. In my regular writing, it doesn't make any sense. And AI does not have, like ChatGPT does not have the capacity to keep the first chapter cohesive all the way through the last chapter. You could go in each day and give it the prior's chapter, and it still wouldn't be cohesive. And I find ChatGPT wants to be a little bit redundant with the adjective usage, which is a stickler with me. I always write, and then I go back through and I'm like, how many times did I use nanosecond? And it better just be one time per book. So I'm fussy about that. And the reason I'm fussy is because I used to be kind of redundant with my adjectives. I fell in love with some adjective, for that book, and I used it to death. And so now I do command searches and make sure that I'm not using a modifier more than like once or twice per book or whatever. So there's stuff that goes into it. It's a quality control thing. You want your readers to feel like you can describe the same situation 10 different ways, and they get it, but they're not bored by it. It's engaging. It's about all I have to say on this episode. So mainly we've talked about formatting and how important that is after you have your finished, polished novel. You want to get it formatted. You should learn how to do it yourself. But if you don't want to, you can use someone like myself on Fiverr and come to me or come to them or whoever, because this isn't a plug for me. I'm just telling you, you can buy this. You don't have to learn how to do it. Now that I know how, I will always want to know how. And I just improved my skill sets to the next level of relevancy or updates, whatever technology brings my way. I just instantly got on board with that and learned it. And I'm glad I did. And now I'm 3 years deep on that one too. And there'll be something else in the future. And I don't want to ever see that banner on top of my KDP account saying, you now need to change all your stuff to EPUB. Because that's coming. My stuff's all in EPUB now. I'm not gonna do it another way, and that's gonna be relevant for a while, I think. But so there's that. Your polished novel, get it formatted, and then figure out how to do keyword research, and use precepts in your subtitle, your keyword bank within the Amazon portal, the KDP portal, first page, and a synopsis. Subtitle, keywords, and synopsis are critical. If you don't get the ones, and it's a hassle, guys, you're gonna have to buy software. You're gonna have to buy software specific to what your task is. I recommend Rocket, KDP Rocket. That's where I use a lot of my software. It's one of the suites I use for research on that. And most of my clients want to pay for it. They don't want to deal with it. They'd rather have me just dive into their KDP and sort it all out. I've got one guy now he's got me doing his promos when I'm in there and stuff. I say, hey, do I have permission to do your promos? And I'll set his promos for his books because he's KU. And he doesn't want to deal with any of it. He's just like, you sort that. I'm like, okay. And I do. And he's got a set of wheels on him. He's a very good writer, and we're wanting to surface his stuff. He's got real niche work, period lit work. And so I'm doing that, and it's been going beautifully. But those are the things. Polished novel. It's got to be formatted correctly. Hire it out or learn how to do it. And get my online suite I'm going to be doing for all this stuff, where I'm going to sell my template. I'm going to walk you through the processes of building your template from scratch. I'm going to reveal what I'm using for all my software suites, and I'll walk you through how to use those as well. Okay. So there's all that stuff, but I'm just an overview. Okay. So polished novel, format, learn how to use and leverage KDP portal stuff. Get ChatGPT, it's free, okay? Start using that, start experimenting with that. All my synopses I have written, then I give them a ChatGPT and I say, make this convertible, use ADA, use SEO, and it rewrites the whole thing. And then if it doesn't do it exactly as I like, I come back in there and I say, what about me being a New York Times bestselling author? What about this series being a #1 dark fantasy bestselling series? Regenerate, and then it comes through and it adds those things. So these are tools. They're tools that I didn't have 10 years ago, and I'm so pleased to have them now. So anyway, this kind of ends this. And I want to let you know, I'm going to put some links below. My Fiverr site, I'm going to put ChatGPT in there so you guys have a way to go. And I'm also going to just recap a little bit what we talked about in here. And the next episode, I don't know how popular they are. And next episode, we'll go into even more detail about further things, and let me know if you guys want to know more about Fiverr, because Fiverr's just been a tremendous active income thing where I'm just sitting at home doing the job I already know how to do. It's fantastic. I just love it. But I love it part-time because I've got, my book empire to take care of as well. So anyway, a lot of pies, fingers in a lot of pies. Love you guys, and subscribe, and please like my channel and share it where you think people would like it, and hope to see you next time. Talk to you soon.